Hello, BookTube. I went to the Brattle this morning, which might not seem like much if you're new to this channel, because the Brattle is a used bookstore in downtown Boston, and I go there all the time. But if you're at all familiar with my Brattle-going habits, it will strike you as decidedly odd, because A, it was raining, and if you're not familiar with me and the Brattle, you might say, well, what difference does that make? You're going to a store. But the Brattle has a sale lot next to the store. That's enormous. It's the floor plan of an entire other building. And it has thousands and thousands of bargain books for $1, $3, and $5. And it's not open when it rains. Half the carts are tarped over and half the other carts are pulled inside the shop. All the side shelves are boarded over. No outdoor sale lot. It was raining this morning, but I went to the Brattle anyway. And it's the weekend. And again, you might be saying, well, so what? But there's a real reason why I don't go to the shop on the weekend, because it's mobbed with people who don't get to go there during the week. And you might be wondering, given these factors, why I would then go, if so much was against it. Well, the reason was social. I'm a social butterfly. The reason was that I was meeting two other booktubers. Lukash from A Cruel Reader's Thesis, and Ami from Ami 8675309. They're two great booktubers who I met in person for the first time this morning. How wonderful. What a treat. I wasn't going to pass that up. So I went, and the carts were covered, and I met a wonderful viewer of this channel. I hope you're watching now. I didn't even get your name. I feel terrible about it, him and his wife. And then Ami and Lukash showed up, and we browsed all around the store, and I talked plenty with the staff. Zach was there. He and I got to exchange a few good quips. And despite the fact that the carts were all covered and there was no outdoor sale lot, I got a pile of books, and I want to show them to you. And the first one is a mass market paperback, which again is going to seem odd because I have said recently on this channel that I'm kind of falling out of love with the format. That process was significantly accelerated this week when I had not one, but two mass market paperbacks almost literally fall apart in my hands. They were old and yellowed and brittle, and that's predictable, but still, print and paper books already have a lot of headwind to counter because of how much I love my e-reader. For them to start falling apart on me, that's not doing the cause any good. But yesterday, I watched, or was it this morning? It's all blurring together. I watched a video just recently, yesterday I think it was, from Scott at the Wild Digest. A booktube channel, relatively new booktube channel, that deeply confuses me. I do not understand why he does not have 1,000 subscribers. Because he's terrific. His channel is terrific. Maybe it's consistency of uploading, but I don't know how important that is. Well, anyway, I'll leave a link to his channel down below. I'll leave a link, if I remember, I'll leave a link to Ami's channel and also Lukash's channel as well, because meeting in person like that was a lot of fun. We went to the Brattle and we went to lunch, and it was raining. It was a little bit of a grim day, but the sun was starting to come out. And I was watching Scott's channel. He was doing a kind of multi-sourced book haul where he went to Iliad Books and he went to online, to sellers that he trusted online, and got a bunch of books that he wanted to show us. And I thought when I was watching that, well, this is a lot of fun. And the fun thing about book hauls is that they make you want to go and get some of the books you're seeing. But almost all the stuff he was showing was vintage science fiction, which is not exactly something that you can just put on your galoshes and go out and get, unless you have the Brattle Bookshop, in which case you can. And the first thing I got, one of the things that I saw on his video, I immediately said, oh, I want that. I think I've had that at one point or another, but I don't think I've ever read it. I want that. Me wanty. And it was the one that was at the shop today. Is this The Sword of Lancor by Howard L. Corey? That Scott mentioned that he was just a cover by. I completely agree. This thing is in perfect condition. Just perfect. There is no chance this is going to fall apart on me. It's in a stronger shape paperback than a lot of much newer books that I have. And I think Scott mentioned that this is a pseudonym, that Howard Corey is a pseudonym. I don't remember who it's a pseudonym for. I'll just go ahead and assume Gardner Fox. but I don't think I've ever read this, and it was right there. So that was a kind of booktube competition. was just to, I admit, an extreme luxury when it comes to the Brattle Bookshop. I can just pop over there, reach out onto the shelf, and grab whatever I want. That isn't available to a lot of people. A lot of you, have to resort to dealing with eBay or whatnot and hoping for the best, hoping you get an honest seller. Then I got a trade paperback, a smaller, older trade paperback. I probably shouldn't have done this. It was $1. But I probably shouldn't have got it because older trade paperbacks really do fall apart, and I'm hypersensitive to that now. I got Eric Segal's great book. This is an absolute classic that I've had many times before, but I got his book Roman Laughter, his analysis of the comedy of Plautus, which I love. Plautus, I have translated Plautus myself privately for friends, and I love the analysis here. I don't always agree with it. I get the strong impression, fatally, that that in the writing of this book about the comedy of Plautus, Eric Segal never really let the fact that he himself is basically humorless slow him down. And that's a bad thing. You should pay attention to that if that happens to be true, you poor soul. If you don't have a sense of humor, if you don't get comedy, I don't think you're going to get a lot about Plautus. But this is interesting anyway. It belongs on my classic shelf. Okay, then this next one's going to strike some of you, if you've been watching my book hauls for 80 years, as sheer insanity. But it isn't. It isn't. It's a long story. There is an island off the coast of Massachusetts. It is called Martha's Vineyard. It is lovely. I know every inch of it. Every grain of sand, every hill, every pond, every tree, every inch of it. Every town, every street, everywhere. I love the vineyard. I have loved it forever. Forever. And a long time ago, I used to go there regularly, and I talked many times with the editor and owner of the Martha's Vineyard Gazette, a weekly broadsheet newspaper that talks all about island news. His name was Henry Beadle Huff, and he and his wife were delightful. His dog, his big collie, was delightful, and it was wonderful to chat with him. We met fairly regularly for a bit of time, a long enough time for him to sort of float the idea of maybe me writing something for him, for the paper. And at the time, my answer to that was an adamant no. Don't know why. Hindsight is 20/20. I don't know why. I don't know why I ever stopped doing the things that make my heart pound with joy. You should never stop doing that. I don't know why I did, but I did. At the time, I did it because I thought I was going to something that would make my heart pound even more with joy. But it's not a zero-sum game. I could have kept... Anyway, I didn't ever write anything for him. I just had chats with him, and I enjoyed it. And he wrote a book. He wrote a lot of books, but he wrote one book that was famous, that became famous outside of island circles, called Country Editor, about his time working at the Martha's Vineyard Gazette, which was a country newspaper. It is a little country newspaper. I have been a freelance for hire, an arts editor, a book section editor for hire, for small weekly country newspapers many, many times in my life, just not on an island. But it is the same. It is the exact same audience, the exact same concerns. I love Country Editor. I had a trade paperback for a long time until it fell apart that had facsimile Vineyard Gazette mastheads on it and front pages. And then I found a hardcover. I found this. This is the inimitable pairing. How many thousands of Vineyard people saw those two tottering along on their daily walks? How many? I don't even know. We had an original painting on the cover and an introduction by fellow Vineyard stalwart Walter Cronkite. Those of you born in the 21st century will not know who Walter Cronkite is. You'll have to look him up. But even when you look him up, you won't know what he was. You'll know who he was when you look him up, but you won't know what he was. Those of you who are born in the 21st century are living your young adulthood absolutely bombarded by random alternate news sources. To the point where you don't know what's true or not before you even factor in AI. To the point where you don't know what's true or not. You don't know whether or not a venue of even venerable age has been ideologically captured. You have no idea. So you have to sort of grope and piece things together and hope you don't go down a rabbit hole by accident. Hope you don't get radicalized by accident. And And so you might be able to look up who Walter Cronkite is, but you won't know what he was, because he was the antithesis of that. He was our news. In the pre-internet era, none of this is going to make any sense to you, but in the pre-internet era, you read the morning newspaper, or if you were like me, you read a few of them, and then you went on about your day. And no one had any way to contact you. You didn't have a phone on you. You read the morning news, and then you went about your day. And then at the end of the day, maybe you get an evening edition of the same paper, or, like most of the people in the country, you get home from work, your boss is not expecting to have contact with you after 5. At all. You get home from work, and you heat up the TV dinner, and you turn on the TV, and you watch Walter Cronkite as he tells you the news. He tells you what happened during the day. While you were out where you were at work and school and doing other things. You sat down and listened to Cronkite tell you the news. And so did everybody else. And he was sane, and he was sound, and he was avuncular, and he was insightful and intelligent, and you were done. You were done. There was no 24-hour news cycle. You were done. You read the morning paper. You went about your day. No one could contact you and harry you at 24 hours a day, every second. Then you came back. You sat back in the recliner and you listened to Cronkite. And then when he was done, well, you turned him off, and that was it for the news. That was it for the news until the morning paper. Walter Cronkite does the preface for this book. And there's this painting, and I liked that just fine, especially since my trade paperback was falling apart. But the whole time that I have been going back and back to this thing, I have wanted the original hardcover, which is, to me, just more enjoyable. Nothing against that cover painting, nothing against it at all, but I'd never seen it. I've just never seen it. I've looked everywhere at used bookstores and never seen it, but I found it today in perfect condition with a plastic covering over the dust jacket. And here you have a country editor, Henry Beetlehuff. There you have his crowded desk. There you have the Vineyard out his window. And there you have a description of the book. So I found this. Now, I don't know what that means about what I'm going to do with this. Probably I want them both, but I'm not 100% sure. But I'm going to reread this before the end of the year, because I was happy enough to find it in the edition that I have always wanted. The one that I first read it in, the one that I first remember it for, which is wonderful. That was probably the find of the day. Rendered all the more wonderful by the fact that by a weird twist of fate, you just never know. You never know what the future has in store. I now write for the Vineyard Gazette. After all this time, I write book reviews for the Vineyard Gazette. So I have come, as the English majors say, full circle. So I found that. I was utterly delighted to find that. And then I found this. This is Windy Arbors. There is a pun there, but you're only going to get it if you're Irish gutter trash like me. This is by Aidan Higgins, who wrote Langrish Go Down, wrote a modern classic of Irish literature. But he also wrote a lot of other things. He wrote a lot of short stories. I could swear, maybe one of you will know better. Jason Harrigan would probably know better. He probably has this guy in his parlor right now. I could swear that I remember a gigantic collection of Aidan Higgins' short stories. I could swear that I remember a big, huge thing. Maybe I'm getting him mixed up with somebody else. But anyway, I love his fiction. But I knew the whole time that I was loving his fiction that he, like everyone else in the world of letters, wrote book criticism. He wrote book reviews. His whole life. Whether he got a good contract or a book, or a bad one, whether he had a good teaching position or a bad one, whether he was flush or owed everything in the shirt on his back, no matter what it was, you keep doing it. Usually, almost always, if you are in the writing world, you will break into it by writing book reviews. And then you move on from there. You make contacts, you go to the right dinners, you get published, if someone wants a longer feature, maybe someone once you've written 1,000 book reviews, maybe somebody wants you to research and write a 10,000-word feature. And maybe the somebody is the New Yorker. And suddenly you have enough money from that check, once it clears, to give you a little freedom, a little breathing room to write a novel. And then you write another novel, and maybe your third novel wins the National Book Award, and all of a sudden you are a novelist. But you still get sent books for review. People will still contact you. And usually you will say yes. Some prima donnas in the literary world have stopped saying yes. They got very, very picky. But Aidan Higgins is Irish. And the one thing, I don't know what it is, but the one thing that people who are legitimately Irish, or in my case, Irish extraction, I have 100% Irish extraction, the one thing they all seem to have in common is a more than nodding familiarity with poverty. They don't turn down money. In other words, they don't turn down money. So you saw the other day, I hauled that copy of early book criticism of George Bernard Shaw. Anyway, I knew that this guy wrote book reviews his whole career. And I just idly wondered from time to time whether or not they were ever collected. Well, here they are. They are all collected in here. Now, this is annoying in one way because they just have the piece titles. So as I read through this, I am going to have to put in pencil in the table of contents what the piece is actually about, which is a little annoying. I wish that you've got the book, what it is, who wrote it, and who published it at the top of each piece, but not in the table of contents, so not easy for glancing. If I were to collect book reviews into a book, I would want you to be able to see at a glance in the table of contents what each piece is about. Just hypothetically. Then I found a book by Jonathan Bate, who is great. And this is a book of his that I've had before. I had no idea that Oxford had reprinted it. This is a 10th anniversary edition of The Genius of Shakespeare, with this weird cover where Shakespeare is a very sexy Puerto Rican man. I love this book and don't have a copy. I saw it at the Brattle today and thought, good Lord, how is it that you don't have a copy in the 10th anniversary edition? It's been at least that long since I read it. I have a Shakespeare section in my library, thanks to David Murphy. I have a whole chunk of a bookcase that is just Shakespeare, and this belongs there. So I grabbed it, and will be very curious to read chunks of it before I put it on that shelf. Then we have something by Brian Hall. This is historical fiction. Now that I'm seeing his name, did he write the Saskiad? He did. He wrote a book called The Saskiad, Saskiad. What a novel! Oh, what I wouldn't give to find a copy of it. What a book! But this is also great. This is I Should Be Extremely Happy in Your Company. It's a historical fiction about the Lewis and Clark expedition, and it's terrific. Doesn't read like historical fiction at all. It's just wonderful. I hate the boring cover, but I love the book. I got an advance copy of this. This came out in 2012. Is that right? 2012? 2003. Oh, how time flies. I got an advance copy of this. I think it came to the break room of the bookstore where I was working. And I loved it. And I got the finished copy, and I've had it from time to time on and off, but I saw it today and want to reread it. And maybe it's a step in the right direction for the book gods to get me a copy of the Saskiad. If you have a copy of the Saskiad and you haven't got to it, get to it. But also this. This is terrific. Okay, then this next one, boy, this just mystified me. I saw this inside the shop. Well, all my shopping was inside the shop today. There was no sale lot. This is by Roy Martin Haynes, and it's from McGill Queen's University Press. I don't know that this ever had a U.S. publication. I don't think I could have missed this. 2003. I don't know if this is ever published in the United States. This is Roy Martin Haynes' biography of King Edward II. Fairly big. Just an absolute joy. This is the second book on King Edward II that I've found this year that I haven't read. Imagine this thing being out there for 20 years and me not knowing anything about it. Never having read this. So it was a huge. This also might count as a find of the day. I will get to it soon. Then in the Shakespeare section, I found another find of the day. Another real pleasant thing. This thing. It's the Royal Shakespeare Society. It's Shakespeare, but it's Shakespeare and Others. This is also Jonathan Bate, and this is the collaborative plays. So you've got the Royal Shakespeare Society thing there, and this is a separate volume for the collaborative plays, for plays that are not in the first folio. They are not ever attributed solely to Shakespeare. And this will have, like all the Royal Shakespeare Society things, will have a huge amount of critical stuff in it that I have not read. And it struck me as an excellent find because I have, as I mentioned, that Shakespeare shelf. And just the other day, just 2 days ago, I pulled this off that shelf. This is the Royal Society Complete Works of Shakespeare. So I could read the second part of Henry VI again for no particularly discernible reason. I'm having a blast. But how wonderful that I now have this thing that goes right there next to it. The collaborative plays, including, I'm sure, some that I have never really read in a bear-down scholarly way. So that's great. Fantastic. And then the one disappointment of the day, I saw a book in the poetry section, and I could not for the life of me remember if I had a copy. And I went to a lot of bother. I even asked Lukash to look it up on his phone so that he could get a picture of it, and maybe I would remember whether or not it was the one I have. This author wrote, sorry, the plastic covering here is acting up. This author wrote a 2-volume biography of Percy Bysshe Shelley. And I found one volume of it at the shop relatively recently this year. And I saw a volume at the shop today and could not for the life of me remember if it was the one I had or the one I needed. And it's this. It's Shelley, The Golden Years. By Kenneth Cameron. Can you see there? Great big thing on Shelley. Somebody put this rather argumentative plastic covering on it. I don't think it needs to be there. And I agonized. What we were able to call up online simply did not ring a bell with me. It just did not help at all. I even I suggested maybe we could look up my videos. Maybe we could look by Shelley, The Golden Years on YouTube through Google to see if maybe we could find the exact haul video, and then I would know. No such luck. None at all. So I had a deliberation to make, and I thought, what are the chances that the Brattle got 2 copies of Shelley, The Golden Years in rapid succession? Isn't it more likely that this is the volume I need, and that it was in the same box with the volume I got, only they came up to the shop at different times? And I also thought, if you guess and you guess wrong, and you need it, and it's still at the shop, you're going to be in agony. So get it. Take a gamble and get it. So I did. I threw this on the pile of stuff that I got today, and I got back here, and it turns out I do have it. It is a double. It's great. I read it from a library. It's fantastic, but this one is a double. I still need Young Shelley, Genesis of a Radical. I still need that, and I don't have it. So this is a double, which would ordinarily call for a giveaway, but I don't know your mailing address, and unfortunately, neither do you. So I guess it will go back to the Brattle. So that's a shame. Well, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have ended on that. That is a shame, but that is the only shame. The rest of this is a pretty strong Brattle haul. So we have Shelley, The Golden Years, a duplicate. We have Shakespeare and Others, collaborative plays with Jonathan Bate taking a hand. We have a biography of King Edward II that I have never read. What on earth? What on earth? We have Brian Hall, his book, I Should Be Extremely Happy in Your Company, a novel of Lewis and Clark. So historical fiction. We have Jonathan Bate's The Genius of Shakespeare, which is a bit of a classic when it comes to Shakespeare studies. We have Windy Arbors. I will be reading a lot of this tonight. I imagine I will be reading a lot of this. And finally, let's see here, Country Editor, in the edition that I really, really want. No offense to this, but I really, really wanted this one. Then Roman Laughter, a classic, the classic study of Plautus. And finally, The Sword of Lancor, which I got purely for, again, a cover by, and also BookTube made me do it. So it's in my own defense, my main objection to mass market paperbacks in this year has been how delicate they are. And I can't really convey to you how new this thing is. This is not going to fall apart anytime soon. So my main objection was gone. So there you go. There's a Brattle book haul on the weekend in the rain. So this shop really doesn't, it can really hook me, even with one hand tied behind his back. So I'm going to go sort these things and figure out where they're all going to go. I know where the Shakespeare things are going to go. But I'll be back. Thank you, BookTube.